Imagine you are deep in the ocean, where sunlight cannot penetrate, where the pressure is enough to crush a submarine, and where no human has ever set foot. In that eternal darkness, you would think that no life exists. But that is completely wrong. Not only does it exist, but there are creatures there that break every biological law you have ever known. Today, I am going to tell you about a creature so strange that scientists are scratching their heads and wondering, how the hell does it live, without oxygen? We have always been taught that oxygen is the basis of life. Humans can only live a few minutes without it. Animals, plants, all need oxygen to maintain metabolism, convert energy, keep cells functioning. Even the smallest microorganisms are no exception, at least until the discovery of the mysterious creature I am about to tell you about below. 1. The mystery of the creature that doesn't need to breathe. The story begins at the bottom of the sea. The journey begins, the abyss of l'Atalante. In 2010, a group of international marine biologists, including renowned scientist Roberto da Navarro from Italy, made a survey to one of the most inhospitable places on Earth, the abyss of l'Atalante in the Mediterranean Sea. It is a superdense saltwater lake located nearly 3,500 meters below the sea surface. Imagine a body of water so salty that nothing can penetrate, no water flow, no light, no oxygen, a true dead zone. And then, right in that place where there seemed to be nothing but salt and death, scientists found life. Unexpected encounter, lungless creatures. When sediment samples from the bottom of the lake were collected and brought up, the team discovered the existence of complex organisms, not bacteria, not viruses, but eukaryotes, that is, organisms with distinct cell nuclei, just like us. And here's the amazing part, they had no respiratory organs, did not use oxygen, and were still alive and well. The creatures belonged to the genus Loricifera, a group of microscopic marine microorganisms, only a few hundredths of a millimeter in size, that normally live attached to seafloor sediments. But the three species in particular that the team discovered, later named Spinaloricus, Rugiloricus, and Plissoloricus, were unlike any other creatures ever recorded. They lived entirely without oxygen. Not only that, their bodies even lack mitochondria, the organelles that almost all eukaryotes have to convert oxygen into energy. Instead, they have hydrogenosomes, the type of organelles once only seen in parasites like Giardia or Trichomonas, which live in the intestines of animals, also in anoxic conditions. They do not breathe, do not need oxygen, and still perform all life functions. A form of life that, if you did not see it with your own eyes, you would think it only existed in science fiction novels. Is oxygen not mandatory? This discovery shocked the scientific community. For centuries, the concept of life has always been associated with oxygen, but now, the existence of Loricifera has completely challenged that. And what is even more shocking, not that they tolerate an oxygen-free environment, they have actually evolved to live permanently without oxygen. That is, if you take this creature out of an oxygen-rich environment, it will most likely die. This is a major turning point. It forces scientists to rethink everything about evolutionary biology, marine ecology, and even the origin of life in the universe. Not just an anomaly, but a clue to life beyond Earth? Wait. If there is a creature that can survive without oxygen, that means life doesn't need Earth-like conditions like we think. In our search for extraterrestrial life, humans have often looked for planets with oxygen atmospheres, liquid water, and Earth-like conditions. But if there are creatures here on Earth that don't need any of those things, how many other forms of life are out there, surviving in ways we can't even imagine? Imagine, under the thick ice of Europa, Jupiter's moon, is a cold, dark, underground ocean. If there is no oxygen there, that is no problem. Who knows, maybe under that ice there is a completely different ecosystem, with creatures as strange as Loricifera. Scientific reaction, skepticism and confirmation. Of course, such a shocking discovery cannot go without controversy. Immediately after the announcement, a wave of skepticism arose in the scientific community. Many people thought that the creature might have actually died before it was discovered. Or that it might have absorbed the tiny amount of oxygen left in the sediment particles. But da Navarro's team countered with strong evidence. They used special dyes to test whether the cells were still active or not, and the results showed that these creatures were completely alive. They even discovered signs of reproduction, meaning that they were not only alive, but also growing, dividing, and surviving sustainably in that deadly environment. Electron microscopy images also showed completely intact cell structures, with no signs of decomposition. Science is not easily convinced. But when the evidence was confirmed by many independent research groups, no one could deny it. We are facing a completely new form of life. In the next section, you will discover in detail how these creatures maintain energy without oxygen, how hydrogenosomes replace mitochondria, and most importantly, their potential applications in technology, medicine, and even space exploration. Are you ready? 2. Strange living machine, energy from the dark. In the previous part, you learned a truth that shocked the scientific world. There are creatures that live forever in an environment without oxygen. These creatures do not breathe, do not use oxygen to metabolize energy, and still live, grow, and even reproduce like any other creature. The question now is, how do they live? When oxygen, the source of life for all normal creatures, is completely absent, what is happening in this small but super strange body? When mitochondria disappear, another biological world. Every cell of a eukaryotic organism, that is, an organism with a clear cell nucleus, has mitochondria. This is where energy is created for the cell, like a power plant. Mitochondria use oxygen to burn glucose and create ADP, the unit of energy for all life activities. But the loricifera organism lives in an environment completely devoid of oxygen. This means that the mitochondria are useless. And you guessed it, they don't have any. So what's the alternative? Hydrogenosomes, reactors for the anoxic world. The loricifera have evolved to replace mitochondria with hydrogenosomes, a very strange organelle, previously only seen in parasites that live in the intestines of animals. Hydrogenosomes don't need oxygen. Instead, they break down glucose through fermentation, producing energy, a little ADP, and a byproduct, hydrogen gas. It sounds simple, but this means no oxygen. No traditional cellular respiration. No traditional enzyme systems. And still alive. So instead of using clean fuel like oxygen, these creatures burn energy by fermenting in the dark, creating hydrogen gas, and keeping their bodies functioning stably in an environment that is completely opposite to the living conditions of most other creatures. A life form that survived on primitive energy, billions of years ago, when the Earth did not have much oxygen. Ancient living techniques revived? This suggests a shocking hypothesis. Maybe the loricifera creatures are not a particularly modern evolutionary life form. On the contrary, they could be the oldest living life form, a living fossil, carrying biological characteristics from a time when the Earth did not have oxygen in the atmosphere. Remember, about 2.5 billion years ago, Earth's atmosphere was almost devoid of oxygen. It was only after the Great Oxidation Event, created by cyanobacteria, that oxygen began to accumulate in the atmosphere and oceans. It's possible that loricifera are survivors of an earlier era, when organisms lived in a completely different way, without oxygen, light, or anything we'd label essential. If so, this isn't just an alien. It's a window into our own past. Living among the dead, how do they survive in a toxic environment? There's one thing that wasn't explained in the previous section. The environment in which this organism lived wasn't just oxygen deprived, it was also full of toxins. The bottom of Lake La Talante is a hypersaline lake, containing 8 times the salt concentration of normal seawater. Not only that, it also contains hydrogen sulfide, H2S, a very strong poison for most creatures. Just smelling a small amount can make you faint. But loricifera is unharmed. The reason? They have a body structure with a tight shell and a special cell structure, which helps prevent toxins from entering. And inside their hydrogenosomes, their metabolism takes place in a way that does not create easily oxidized molecules, helping to maintain stability in harsh environments. Not only do they live without oxygen, they also thrive in conditions that would kill other creatures instantly. What would happen if this creature disappeared? There is a scary thing that few people think about. Creatures like Loricifera can play an important role in the ecological balance of the seafloor. Although extremely small, they contribute to the food chain in the benthic microbiome, helping to process decaying organic matter in places where no other creatures can get close. If these bizarre creatures disappear, the biological chain of the ocean floor could collapse, causing an unforeseen domino effect. The story goes beyond microbiology. There are creatures that don't need oxygen. It opens up much bigger questions. How many other forms of life exist in places that humans have yet to explore? Could they live underground? Under ice? On dead planets? Is all the knowledge about biology that we are learning just a small part of the real picture? From the bottom of the sea to future technology. You might think these tiny creatures are just for scientists to study. But they are not. They could change the way we create energy, process waste, and even design biological robots. For example, hydrogenosomes, organs that produce energy without oxygen, if artificially cloned, could be used in biological robots that operate in air environments, space, underground, deep sea. Anaerobic waste treatment technology, treating waste, polluted water. Applications in medicine, especially models that simulate cells living in anemic, hypoxic environments, like cancer. There is even the idea of creating genetically modified microorganisms based on Loricifera, to introduce to other planets, like Mars, and start seeding life. That sounds like science fiction, but after this discovery, nothing is science fiction anymore. Everything is possible. The truth has been buried at the bottom of the sea for millions of years. And now, when it is brought to light, the world has to look back at everything that was once considered certain. So, if this creature is real, what awaits us in even darker, deeper, more mysterious places, like the Earth's core, or planets outside the solar system? Get ready for the final part, where we cross the boundaries of Earth, and look at the possibility of extraterrestrial life, the hypothesis of oxygen-free life, and the scenario that changes the entire human understanding of living conditions. 3. If we don't need oxygen to live, how many unknown life forms are there in the universe? You have gone with me to the bottom of the sea, a dark, dead place, where no life seems to exist. But we have discovered an unbelievable secret: there are creatures that live without oxygen. No breathing, no lungs, no mitochondria, no light, and still, alive. So the question is, if such an impossible thing exists right here on Earth, then how many other life forms are out there in the universe that are beyond our imagination? A blow to human pride. For thousands of years, humans believed that we were the center of the universe. When we learned that Earth was just a tiny planet orbiting the sun, that pride was shaken. When we discovered bacteria living inside us without our knowledge, we were once again amazed. But today, when we see a creature that doesn't need the basic building block of life, oxygen, the whole of modern biology is thrown into the balance. Everything we thought of as minimum living conditions, oxygen, light, the right temperature, is now optional. So where can life exist? The answer may give you goosebumps: anywhere. Alien life, no longer a question of if, but when. In the search for alien life, we have traditionally had a criterion called the Goldilocks zone, that is, the just right zone where a planet can have liquid water, is not too hot, not too cold, has oxygen, and has sunlight similar to Earth. But the existence of Loricifera has erased that concept. If there is life right in the underwater hell, without liquid water like Earth, no oxygen, no light, nothing, then no one can be sure that Europa, Jupiter's moon, or Enceladus, Saturn's moon, do not have an underground ocean full of strange creatures. Even Mars, with its dry and radioactive surface, may harbor anaerobic life deep underground, a place no one has ever touched. Are we being watched? A terrifying hypothesis. Now that life without oxygen is a reality, a hypothesis that was once considered crazy suddenly becomes not so strange. Are there life forms that have evolved in conditions completely different from Earth, and have they been observing us for a long time? If a civilization was born in an environment that needed no oxygen, no light, they would have completely different technology, senses, and ways of life, undetectable by human radar or telescopes. They might not live on the surface of the planet, but deep under the crust, where no signal escapes. We are still looking up at the sky, searching for radio signals, while maybe, what we are looking for, is right underground on some planet. Warning from the bottom of the sea, why is this not just a science story? This is not just an amazing discovery, it is also a silent warning. If life can arise from the most extreme conditions, what is to stop it from evolving in a direction that is completely opposite to ours? If we live on oxygen, light and moderate temperatures, then digital life might exist somewhere. With toxins, darkness and extreme temperatures. And if humans continue to pollute the environment, destroying the ecosystem, then in the not-too-distant future, the Earth will become the perfect environment for creatures like Loricifera, not us. Can you imagine a day when the Earth has no more oxygen, humans become extinct, and Loricifera is the last survivor? Horror application: can synthetic biology create a biological death god? The discovery of Loricifera also has another chilling consequence. If humans can recreate the mechanism of life without oxygen, we can design artificial organisms that function in harsh environments, polluted air, battlefields, even living organisms. Imagine, a microorganism that does not need oxygen, is not detected by the immune system, can live in the body, slowly decomposing internal organs. An invisible killer that no antibiotic can kill, because it doesn't work the way it should. We may open the door to a new biological world, but we may also unleash a monster we've never seen before. Conclusion: once the truth is revealed, there's no turning back. The creature that doesn't need oxygen is real. It's not from Mars. It's not from a science fiction movie. It's from Earth itself, from the deepest, deadliest, darkest places. And its existence changes everything. We don't understand life as well as we once thought. We're no longer sure where life can exist. And we're no longer the only creatures that can survive in extreme conditions. The universe is too big. And life is too mysterious. If there's a creature that doesn't need oxygen, what's next? A creature that lives on acid? By radiation? By gravity? Or by something we haven't even named? My final question to you, the viewer. If everything you know about life could be wrong, are you still sure you know anything about yourself? If you found this video to be making you rethink the world around you, share it with your friends. What do you think about the possibility of alien life, and life that doesn't need oxygen? Leave a comment below. Subscribe to our channel for more facts that are weirder than science fiction.